Is it a political earthquake? This young lady says it is. I don't disagree. I got to tell you, what just happened in New York and what we're seeing happen in a lot of places looks like there's a real upheaval going on. And to that end, it's Dr. Carol Swain. We love having the doctor on. Doctor, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
CarolMSwain.com is the website. She's a best-selling author. Go and get every book that she's written, and she's just one of the best thinkers that we have in this country. I know that you spent some time in the UK, and I'm from Metro New York originally. We just saw Mamdani win in New York. A guy from Uganda just became a citizen 7 years ago. Suddenly, he's the mayor of the biggest city in this nation, and he won, I believe, by lying. And I'll get into that in a second. But can you compare and contrast what you're seeing in London with Sadiq Khan and other cities in the UK and all over the UK, whether it's Scotland, whether it's Northern Ireland, whether it's England, Wales, whatever? You see this influx of people from a different sort of civilization, a different sort of culture taking over big cities. Why is that happening?
Well, I can tell you that I spent my time not in London. I avoided London and I was in Cambridge. And it's happening because I think white guilt to a large extent
Really?
has led leaders to make decisions that have not been in the interests of the people in their countries. And when you add the fact that for some of the populations, certainly the Muslim populations, I think our politicians have sold us out literally, in that in some cases people have been able to benefit, people that we have elected to office have benefited from representing foreigners more than representing the people who actually cast the votes for them.
You know, that's very well said. It reminds me of the guy in, I believe this guy was in Scotland, and he was, I believe, Pakistani background, and he was a leader in the parliament. He was like somebody elected to office, and he was complaining about, you got a white dog catcher, you got a white garbage man, you got a white parliamentarian, you got a white mayor, and you got a white this and that. And he had no guilt, no shame whatsoever, literally being a racist while holding a position of power in a country that's probably 95% white. Is that what they do? They keep on saying that, and then the white people in these cultures go, maybe we should let more brown people in from Uganda or from Pakistan. Is that how it works?
I mean, that's part of it. It's a way for certain people to get their feet in the door, and then white people will. I'm sorry how this sounds, but white people would designate one or two, minorities to speak for the whole group. But I think that it's more than that that's taken place. That because we have been prosperous societies, certainly in the U.S., uh, that the white guilt that I see comes from leaders that see the unfortunate people in society on the earth, and they feel like they themselves have it too good. These other people need opportunities, and they just open up the floodgates. That's part of it. The other part of it is that the leaders are the ones that are crafting the immigration policies and are pushing the open doors and are turning a blind eye to crime. It would be one thing if they were giving opportunities to other people to enter countries that are more prosperous, and holding those people to the same standards, requiring them to assimilate. They're not doing that. So look at the crime problem that the UK has because of the immigrants that they brought in, and the rape problem that the UK and other countries that have large numbers of Muslim immigrants, they've had a problem with that. They're not necessarily addressing that. The leaders, the law enforcement, they're just turning people back out on the street, or they're not arresting them at all.
The New White Nationalism in America is a book that you wrote 21 years ago, Doc. I mean, you foreshadowed all of this. How did you know?
I don't know. I saw what was taking place in America and how it was creating an opportunity for more extreme voices. And back then, the average American, whether they were white or black, and I'm just going to deal with those dominant groups,
Yeah.
they were concerned about liberal immigration policies. Whites were concerned about black on white crime, racial preferences, globalization, job losses. All of these were issues that mainstream politicians were not addressing. And I commissioned interviews of what at that time was 10 of the leading white rights, white nationalist leaders in the country. Some of them were very extreme. I did not conduct the interviews myself. I hired a white interviewer.
Wow.
And what I saw was that the language of multiculturalism and identity politics was providing uh, a language that I saw would be quite effective in recruiting white people or causing more of them to think about their own identity, because multiculturalism was saying everyone should celebrate everyone, but it was saying except you white people. And so this was around the time that you had the Turner Diaries and
Yes.
William Pierce and David Duke and all of those voices out there. I felt that white identity and white interests would be the next stage of identity politics in America. I wrote that in the book, mainly because we were not addressing legitimate grievances. And I saw that the language, again, the language from the universities, that the language of identity politics, it would have to include whites. If everyone else has an interest, white people had an interest. And so you see today in American politics how that's played out.
It's very interesting because as a white guy, I mean, I'm Southern Italian, and I say this often because white supremacists don't like people who came from where my people came from, but I'm a white guy in America. I don't wake up in the morning and thinking, all right, I'm white, let's go see what's going to happen today. I don't go to bed at night going, damn it, I just had another white day. I just don't think that way. It's like we, for some reason, have allowed politicians and big voices to push into our identity in this country that you must think about your race first, unless you're white. If you're white, you can't, because you're ultimately and inherently a racist. Aren't there people who are black and Hispanic and Asian and everything else, American Indian, that wake up in the morning and don't think of themselves, hey, here's my race and my ethnicity, let me go about my day? Or am I just one of the dumb ones that doesn't consider my race all day?
Well, I can tell you that I see something very different taking place in American politics, where there are more white people who did not think in terms of race, or they didn't express themselves in terms of racial identity, but they're saying and posting things on social media that it would be unthinkable even 5 years ago.
Right.
And if someone tried to do that, everyone would just shame that person. But now you see other voices chiming in. And I think that what's taken place with Tucker Carlson, and I could list a number of other people that have come close to the edge, or they're
Right.
crossing the edge. There's something different taking place in America. And I think it is the white identity. And I find it very dangerous. It goes hand in hand with the anti-Semitism, because the same people that hate Jews, they hate blacks, they hate conservative Christians, they hate a whole lot of people.
It's so weird to me. The whole thing that we're watching unfold is very strange. It's CarolMSwain.com. Dr. Carol Swain, Swain, we always appreciate you coming on. Let me ask you about this Mamdani guy. It's not easy to say. Mamdani. He, for me, is the new Obama. Although Obama, I think, had even more qualifications, and he had very few. Obama was a state senator in Illinois, barely ever voted, was very, very pro-abortion. In fact, if you survive an abortion, the doctor shouldn't give you any care. He was just a community organizer, never had a job, did a speech in the 2004 Democratic Convention, and then suddenly was the heir apparent. And when he was a senator, U.S. senator, he barely ever voted, then got into the White House somehow. This guy, Mamdani, is from Uganda, has only been here 7-8 years. He was in the assembly in New York where he hardly ever voted. Nobody even knows what the assembly is. It's the House of Representatives in New York. And this guy, he has no qualifications whatsoever. Nice smile like Obama, speaks very well like Obama, has the ability to make you feel comfortable. He'll put on an accent like he's from Pakistan if he needs to. He'll act like he's black if he needs to, acts like he's white if he needs to. But once he won, he hit the podium in the dais, and he was angry, and he was mad. And he's going to get Trump and get what created Trump, and he's going to this, that, and the other. And in his speech, Doctor, and you probably saw this, he must have named 9 or 10 or 11 different ethnicities and races he wanted to thank for getting him the job in New York. He didn't say, I'm all for one and one for all. He didn't say this is a melting pot. He didn't say, hey, we're going to build a beautiful culture here in New York. He literally separated everybody by their background, their race, and their ethnicity. How is that somebody who can win in New York City, literally dividing. Is it the whole divide and conquer thing like
I
Obama
would
did?
say it's the money. I believe it's the money and a very slick campaign, and the fact that a number of our leaders are willing to sell out the interests of the American people for their own immediate financial gain, because I think money is involved with a lot of it. And it reminds me of a movie some years ago, maybe in the 70s, called The Candidate,
Yes.
starring Robert Redford.
Yes.
And you actually can package a candidate, and if you have enough money, you can sell it just like you sell, cereal or jeans or TVs or whatever. And so he was packaged, and I think that it tells you a lot about American politics, that we have lost sight of who we are as a people. And there's I would say, a spirit of deception that has somehow rested across the nation, where people literally cannot see how they are destroying their own country. I believe that America is on the trajectory to fall as a nation, and that we will have done it to ourselves.
Well, I don't disagree with you at all, but who's pulling the strings? I agree with you. Mamdani is not the brain trust. Neither is Obama. Those guys had no qualifications whatsoever, but they were very good as the so-called Manchurian candidate. Who's running it? Who's in the background? Who's behind the screen?
Well, I mean, we can blame organizations like the World Economic Forum because
Yeah.
they have a vision. There are people that have a vision for globalization, and part of it hinges on bringing down America. And so they are willing to buy whichever politicians they have to, purchase, and they're willing to do whatever needs to be done to achieve their goals. And deception is a large part of what they do. And you see the Marxist forces aligned with Islam, and they have a vision. And anyone that has a vision can go much further than people that just think everything's fine. It's going to continue the way it has. We don't have to be worried about anything. And by the time they awaken to what's happening, I believe it might be too late.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but okay. So, what can I do? What can you do? What can everybody watching and listening do to help wake people up? Because when I see gays for Palestine, I know people are just completely stupid or they're indoctrinated, because if you go to what would be Palestine, they'll throw you off of a building. So, I mean, gays for Palestine makes no sense. Trans for Palestine. Mamdani acting like he's not taking pictures with terrorists when he actually is, and then alleging that he's all for one and one for all when he's really not. Linda Sarsour, just 2 days before the election, said a lot of Muslim money came in to get this guy elected. So what's going to wake people up when they're actually on the trains on the way to the to Auschwitz? I mean, I'm not sure I understand.
The only message I can give comes from my background as a devout Christian and my knowledge of the Bible. And I believe that there's a spirit of deception over America, and a literal spirit of deception that some people can't see. They're caught in a trap, and that the only thing that could change things would be another great awakening, a revival. But at the end of the day, anyone that's familiar with the Old Testament and how God judges nations, he uses in the Old Testament, he used their enemies and the worst of the worst to punish Israel, biblical Israel.
Yeah.
And I would say that we seem to be under judgment. And what's happening, there's a Deuteronomy 28 talks about curses for disobedience, blessings for obedience. And I believe that America is under judgment. And what happened in New York, what happened in other states where they elected leaders that seem nonsensical, that it's just part of the deception and part of the judgment, because people have just totally lost their way. They cannot see what is happening and what is so obvious.
Yeah, I think I said Dachau or something. I don't know what I said, but it's Dachau and Auschwitz is what I was talking about, concentration camps. And by that time, it's too late. Let's talk. New York happened, and I'm not that surprised. We saw the writing on the wall. The second best candidate was a guy who got kicked out of office as the governor. I think New York hopefully will wake up. If not, it's going to be done for New York. But let's talk about Virginia. You talked about the other races. And let's not even talk about the governor and lieutenant governor, because I think the governor and lieutenant governor, Youngkin and Sears, they had, it was sort of an anomaly. Virginia, because of the northern part of Virginia and all the government workers, generally goes very blue. I want to talk about the attorney general race, this Jay Jones guy. This guy literally, and you know this, Doc, he wrote in text messages that if he had 3 bullets, or if he had 2 bullets, and the 3 people he had were Hitler, Pol Pot, and the former House Speaker in Virginia, he would put 2 bullets in the head of the House Speaker. Literally said that. And then he also talked about how Republicans' children should be killed or they should die while their children are watching. And this freaking guy is the top law enforcement officer now in Virginia. Can you tell me how that happens?
It's insane, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's almost like the Democratic Party is no longer a part of anything that's connected to traditional values.
Right.
And that the people are just, speaking of deception, they would vote for anything. There are no boundaries. There's no morality. Look at the judges, the kinds of criminals that they turn out on the street. I think that what happened in Virginia can happen anywhere when you have Democrats that have pushed everyone out of their party that has anything that resembles a conscience or are willing to speak out about issues in a moral sense. And John Fetterman, he's in the party, he's speaking up, but he's a lone voice.
Well, he's more of the John F. Kennedy blue dog Democrat guy, and he's going to wake up one day and realize that he's not a Democrat at all. But when it comes to this guy, Jay Jones, how is that not disqualifying to every voter? Who went there and cast a vote for him knowing that he would be willing to put 2 bullets in the head of somebody just because they were Republican?
Well, the Democrats tolerate violence, and there was a survey recently, about a third of the people surveyed thought that political violence was okay. And the majority of Americans expect it to continue. So when you run for office and if you don't hold the right views, you put a target on your back. And that is so un-American, but it's something that you would expect in third world countries. And we've brought so many people over here from the third world. We didn't influence them with our values. They influenced us to a large extent. And so you see the ugliest of the ugly, and it's in the Democratic Party. The Republicans are by no means perfect, but the Democratic Party has lost all sense of the rule of law. Yeah. They are willing to endorse anything to keep themselves in power and to punish members of their own party who display any common sense.
Dr. Carol Swain, political scientist, also best-selling author. What is the latest book, Doc? I don't have it in front of me.
It's Diversity Without Discrimination, and it talks about how with the depth of DEI and CRT, something that I, spoke out about many years, it's happened, that it doesn't mean that the society becomes lily white, but what's happening today in our society is so much worse than anything that you can imagine. I think it hurts race relations, and it drives us further apart than we've ever been before.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let me finish with this. I was doing a TikTok live the other night. I had 2,000 people in there, and people were arguing about what's going on in New York and why Mamdani won. And one guy wanted to come up and debate me or chat with me, and I brought him up. He's from New York, and he said, because we've got to make New York more affordable. I said, well, what's that guy going to do to make it more affordable as the businesses all leave? He said, well, the billionaires and millionaires have too much money, and they should pay 1 or 2% more. I said, okay, if a guy has $100 million, you charge him 2% more, that's $2 million. He could either use that $2 million to hire more New Yorkers, or he can give it to Mamdani, who's just going to spend it through the bureaucratic red tape at City Hall. How does that make you better? Well, I just don't think it's fair that they have the money. It appears, Doctor, that they were able to use class warfare in that, because this guy sounded white. I don't know if he was or not. I couldn't see his face. But this guy didn't sound ethnic in any way. He wasn't like, I'm so glad a Muslim won. He wasn't like, I'm so glad somebody from Uganda won. He wasn't like, I'm so glad a black guy won. He was just saying, it's about my pocketbook. How can we disabuse people from the belief that government will take the money from Joe and give it to Carol when that never happens that way?
It doesn't happen that way. And my recent trip to the UK, I was at Cambridge University. I was part of a debate. My side won. And
Good.
but while I was there, I attended a meeting of communists. I went in with a couple of people. We sat in the back, and they were making the argument that they are making inroads at major universities across the country, named several American universities, and they say communism will work this time. It didn't work the last time because the societies were not wealthy enough.
Oh,
And
stop
now,
it.
because we are a wealthy society, then this time we have all this money to share. And so that's the new argument. It's not that we didn't do it right the last time. It's now we have money, the money that was wealth that was created by capitalism. We have that now. And so this time we can spread it out. It's going to work.
They don't realize that they're actually saying capitalism worked. That's why we can now make communism work. Are they really that dense that they don't realize that the only reason there's more wealth now is because capitalism works? And by the way, communism has never worked, and there was plenty of wealth elsewhere. That's just a dumb argument. What was your retort to
I
that?
know.
Did they really believe that?
Well, they didn't allow anyone to speak,
Oh, okay.
and so we left, and we're not able to
I'm
contribute.
glad.
But
I'm glad you left
some
because it's just nuts.
I live in Nashville, where they have just substantially increased the taxes. And we always hear the mayor talking about affordable housing. And so they have changed the zoning where they can put high rises in any neighborhood for affordable housing. Meanwhile, they have raised the taxes so high that businesses and homeowners are trying to flee Nashville. So,
Right.
how can you create affordable housing at the same time you're driving people out who have paid for their own homes and retired, or they moved to Nashville, and all of a sudden you made their homes unaffordable while you're trying to create affordable housing? Nothing the left does makes a lot of sense.
Well, look at it this way, because what you just said is true. I'm just going to illustrate it with an actual anecdotal, actually empirical. This really happened. Gavin Newsom has wasted $23 billion in California to solve the homeless crisis that's gotten exponentially worse since he started getting the money. And now what he says, I need some more money for it. So I mean, Doc, it doesn't work throwing money at it. It doesn't work taking more taxation because, as you said, those who are being highly taxed will leave, and none of the homeless people are getting any help because they're actually addicted to something or they've got mental issues. You can't just give them an apartment, go and stay here, and then ask for some more money. That's never worked. So I mean, that literally is an empirical study anybody can do. 22 or 23 billion dollars wasted, and the homelessness has gotten worse. Affordable housing is, I think, a myth.
It has nothing to do with the homelessness. And so you had the progressives talking this language. We're building a beautiful city, but it's going to be for the affluent because they would drive everyone else out. And the whatever affordable housing that they are creating will not be for poor people.
Right,
It will be for people that want to be artists, or people that want to be personal trainers, or
right.
people that want, jobs where they can do their thing and be free. Those kinds of people, but it won't be for people with families.
I couldn't agree more. It's Dr. Carol Swain. Go to
Thank you.
carolmswain.com. Follow her everywhere. Really appreciate you coming on today. And buy every book that she's ever done. Buy 5 copies. Send 4 to friends. Doc, come back on anytime. Great to see you.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. We're back after this. Stay right here.